right. So this episode, I want to get into launching. Now, if you hear that and you cringe a little bit, you feel a little bit ill, you feel stressed, okay, you're not alone. A lot of people think launching is outdated, exhausting, or it's just not for me. But the truth is, if you have an offer, a sale, a promotion, or anything you want to just put out there and announce, you're launching. Launching isn't just a week of hype or open, close card. At its core, it's the psychology of how we announce, build desire, and create momentum about what we offer. And in this episode, I sit down with the launch queen herself, Rachel Spencer. Rach has been mastering the art and science of launching for nearly a decade, and she's still at the top of the game, not just because she knows how to launch, but because she also knows how to evolve. From mindset to mid-launch slumps to warming up your audience in a way that actually works, this conversation, this episode, will change how you think about launching and how you feel about doing it. Whether you're launching now, you've got a launch coming up, this episode is a freaking gold mine that you're going to want to take some notes from, because Rachel literally does not hold back. From specific timelines to warming up your audience to the mid-cart or the wobbles during your launch to the mindset and mid-launch slumps, this episode really is the one-stop shop you're needing right now for launching in your business. So it is my absolute pleasure to welcome the launch queen herself, Rachel Spencer, to the She Got Lucky podcast. Okay, we have the launch queen in the house. She's a queen at many things, but when it comes to creating an offer, sharing an offer out there, we have the absolute best of the best. So put your AirPods in, good Alicia. We have the incredible Rachel. Welcome to the She Got Lucky podcast.
Ooh, thank you so much. And thank you for that intro. It makes me feel special.
You are incredibly special. And I've already warned you, I have some juicy questions to get into today.
I'm so ready. Bring it to me.
All right. So usually we start with your She Got Lucky story.
Sure.
And I'm wondering, we're still going to start with the She Got Lucky story. We got it. Alicia, what are you doing? Going from the back. Okay. So I always ask my guests if there was a moment on your journey that someone said something. It may have been someone close to you. It may have been someone you knew. And they sort of broke down what you've created but like, Rachel, you just got lucky. So I'd love to know, you can take us back to the beginning. You can set it up. You can create your She Got Lucky story however you want. You can elaborate anything. The stage is yours.
Oh, thank you so much. If I really think back and I try to think of people who said I got lucky, I don't know if anybody who is close to me or that would even matter would say that, because they saw how much hard work and dedication went into growing my business. If anybody did say that, it was probably like an online troll.
Classic.
Now, I did have my parents, kind of be like, well, wait a second, don't you want to have like a backup plan? Like, you're starting this business, like you're going to quit your other job. Are you sure? Type of situation. But I wouldn't say that was them not believing in me. That was just them being loving parents.
Yeah.
But
from a different generation.
Exactly. But no, I mean, there was just so much dedication that went into it. And I'll just kind of like start from the beginning, but kind of go through it as quickly as possible so you can kind of get to know more about me. So for those of you who do not know me, I currently live in New York City, the best city in the world, but I am from a small town in Oklahoma. So I am a Southern, or I guess you could say Midwestern girl. And essentially, when I was in high school and college, I realized I wanted to be an actress. which is why I'm so good on camera. That's what I always say. But for those who do not know, being in the acting world, it's the same with like acting and modeling and all of that. You are under a microscope, everything about you. And because of that, I suffered through an eating disorder in college where I hated myself. I hated my body. I would work out till I passed out. I wouldn't eat right. And yeah, essentially, I just truly hated myself, and it got to the point where I almost wanted to, take my own life, if I'm allowed to say that, right? But I moved to New York City. I followed a guy here, but I also have a lot of friends here. I was like, I'm still going to try to be an actress. But it got to the point where I was like, I can't do this anymore. And unfortunately, that meant I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life then, because I was like, I went to school for acting. I wanted to be an actress since I was a kid. What do I do? So that's when I heard of life coaching. And I hired my own life coach, realized I wanted to be a coach, and I started in self love coaching. And the main thing that I realized very quickly was I was great at social media. And the way that I told stories and created content, it came from a very deep, vulnerable place. And my story went viral. And I was in the media, the Today Show, Self, Allure, Teen Vogue. And essentially, my story just blew up. And I had a ton of people, other entrepreneurs coming to me and saying, wait a second, how did you do that? How did you grow your Instagram? Like, how are you booking out your coaching? How did you get featured in the media? And how are you selling all these spots for your programs? And that's when I realized, okay, there's something here. I'm really enjoying not just talking about self love and like body image, but also like really helping other entrepreneurs learn how to grow their own businesses and learn social media and get press and all of that. So that's kind of how I got into business coaching. But as far as how I became the launch queen, I will say that even though my business kind of took off in that way, once I kind of discovered different types of business programs, Instagram programs, and all of that, I realized, well, wait a second, you can't just create a program, throw it out there and put it in the link in your bio and everybody's going to buy. And
Yeah.
so that's when I realized, okay, there's some type of strategy behind this. Anyways, long story short, I worked with a coach who really taught me how to launch. And within 2 weeks, I made $12,000 cash. And yeah, it kind of went up from there. I started selling out all my other programs, masterminds, group programs. I made six figures that year from, living in a small, tiny New York City apartment, wasn't making money from my offers to now making six
And
figures. And
boom.
yeah, it just kind of snowballed from there. So people started calling me the launch queen. They were like, "How are you
We still
selling
do.
out all of your programs?" And so that's kind of where the title came from. So
And I think the important thing is because we sort of had a little chat beforehand, but when it comes to launching, like it might evolve, it might adapt, but it is not something that's going to change because anytime you create an offer, anytime you create anything and you want to put it out in the world, there is a launch strategy to getting the incredible results that you want. And I still remember the first time I launched something. Where on earth were you, Rachel? Because literally I was like, I didn't have dinner. I'm launching this offer. I was living at home. I was like, Mom, Dad, I think this is going to go wild. So I don't want to have dinner. I'm going to go sit down at my desk and just wait for the sales to roll in. Like, that's what I've seen, what happens.
of
And so I
course.
was like, okay, this offer is live. And I was like, where is everyone? Like, what's happening? And then there was absolute crickets. And I was like, wait, what? I did the thing. I shared. It's a program. It's going to help people. Why aren't people jumping? And so my goodness, I just wish that I had Rachel back then. So we've come to like the absolute highs. Was there or not was there? I know there is. You don't get to where you are without the hard moments. So can you take us through one of those moments past the success?
Yeah.
because there's hard moments in the lead up to success, that early, like, wow, what is going on? But there's also, and I think this right now, a lot of people are feeling, you've seen the results, you've seen the success, you've
Yeah.
felt it. And then there's a bit of a lull.
Yeah.
Things have quieted down. So could you take us back to perhaps your hardest moment after that big rush of excitement and everything's working that
Yeah.
maybe didn't make the feed?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, when I first learned how to actually launch and sell, and it was working, right? I feel like I was following somebody else's formula, right? It was what somebody taught me and what I'm supposed to do, and it worked. And because I love being on camera and I have that charisma, like it just worked. It was just easy, right? And so I was selling, selling, selling. And once I made a certain amount of money, I decided that I wanted to work with a pretty famous 8-figure coach. And first of all, just to preface this, like I still think that she's an amazing person, but working with her, I felt like I had to become a clone of her. And I said, well, she's an 8-figure coach. She's clearly successful. I have to do everything that she says to do. But one of the things she wanted me to do was switch the way that I was launching and switch the way that I was selling. And if I really want to make more money, I need to shift this and shift that and do it this way and do it that way. And of course, I did it because she's the expert, right? And I
Yeah.
want to get to that level. But what I didn't realize was in those shifts, I was actually tearing apart pieces of myself and who I actually was. So I was at the peak of my business, making more money than I ever dreamed of, even as a kid. Look, like little Rachel would have been like, you're a bajillionaire with how much money I was making, right? Like I'm at the peak. This is in like 2021 ish, 2022 ish, in between there. And I just started to feel so burnt out and just exhausted creatively. I started not being able to think of new content ideas, new offer ideas. I would dread going to calls with my clients, which is crazy because I love coaching them. I love what I do, but it was just like that dread and feeling like your business was a chore. And I had to ask myself, what caused this? And I think that it really was that I stopped being me and following, what I knew was working for me
Yeah.
and tried to use, that perfect formula, of somebody else and what was working for them and their business model and their, visibility strategy and all of that. And it really just dimmed my light and dimmed who I was. And so I had to take a step back for a bit and I took some time off. And it was actually truly the best thing that could have ever happened to me, though, because from that became the entire brand that I am today. Because now, one of my biggest values and the number one things that I work on with my clients is how to bring out their unique genius and how to make sure that their business is built around them and their strengths, whether they want to have a fully passive business, whether they want to have a launch style business, whether they want to create content in this way or that way. That's super important to me that we are highlighting their individuality because that is what I had to do to come back home to me and actually enjoy my business again. So, long story short, I would say that was the low point where everybody saw me making so much money and they didn't realize how burnt out I was because I was making it, but I was doing it in a way that wasn't sustainable for me and really dimmed who I was.
Yeah, and you could not write this because we have literally just had spoken about this on the past 2 weeks episodes. And so I swear I did not tear Rach up. I was like, when are you like
I had
this
no
is
idea.
just yeah, this is just the beauty of conversations like this with incredible individuals in this space. And I appreciate you sharing that because even listening to this, when you're saying, I changed the way I was launching because, of course, I hired her, how she did it got her to this. And to someone on the outs, like to someone on the sidelines, for me, I'm like, how you did it was so unique. Like how you did it was unlike anyone else. I think if anything, she could have learned from you. Like
I love
she's
that.
probably
Yeah.
at 9 figures, 10 figures if she took your approach. And so it's really funny because I've experienced such a similar thing. And I even that, those moments where you hear other people speak, and this is why I love podcasts and conversations like this, because you hear other people speak, and not only do you realize things that you'd say to that person, but you realize things about yourself.
Yeah.
And it just feels so bizarre listening to that. And you're like, why? Rach, why? Why would you let go of the launch? But I understand because you want to reach that next level. And as well, there is this quote, I might butcher it, so we'll see. But what got you here won't get you there. There's this quote, and that I've heard so many times. And so, of course, there's so much of you that thinks, I need to rewrite some of this DNA. I need to rewrite, I need to revamp all of this. So when you sign up or when you work with someone, it's so easy. And I think this is one of the biggest things. I've heard it time and time again. You almost emulate. You pretty much take it on, and you need such a deep level of discernment to understand what to take and what to leave.
Yeah. I think too, what people don't realize is that there's also a lot of coaches out there that are very good at what they do, are amazing marketers, but unfortunately, they don't really know how to help you replicate their success in a way that works for you. All they
Yes.
know how to do is tell you, this is what I did. So if you want to get here, you got to change everything about yourself. And again, I'm not even talking about the coach that I worked with because I think that, she meant well and she's an amazing person. But just in general, there's just so many coaches out there that that's all they know. And so
Yes.
that's why it just became so important for me as a coach to be like, no, I do not want my clients to become clones of me. I don't want them to think that they have to. I don't want to lead them in that direction unless they want to. And so when I start working with a client, the first thing I want to do is figure out like, what makes you you? What is special about your process? What is your it factor, your genius? Let's highlight that throughout all
Yes.
your offers, marketing, launching, all of that, because that's what's going to make you stand out, not literally becoming a clone of somebody else, of course.
So I could go into this conversation, but as I said, I have so many fun little things I want to dive into about launching. So before we take a nice little sidestep into launching, I do have one more question because we've already heard about your story into business and how you got to where you were, and that blew up and went viral and was featured. But has there been maybe a wild story, an unbelievable moment that you're like, you could not write this. This could not be scripted. That if it was a TV show, oh boy, it would be a good TV show.
Oh my gosh. Something just like crazy that has happened. Hmm. Oh my gosh. I feel like I have to think about that because that's
Take
such
a moment. I've
a
tripped you. I've tripped
I
you.
know. I'm like, I always know what to say. I'm quick with it. I know what to say. No, I mean, I don't know if I can like pinpoint an exact moment, but I will say that I have totally been in the place where like my back is against the wall and I'm like, I'm not going to be able to pay my bills this month, like what am I going to do? But I'm like, I'm Rachel motherfucking Spencer and I'm going to make this happen. And then it's like the day before rent is due, somebody's like, hey, in my DMs, I do you offer one-on-one coaching? And then 5 minutes later, they pay in full. And I'm like, what? I've definitely had a few moments like that where I'm like, yeah, you definitely can't make that up. When your back is against the wall, it's like you just keep going and the universe has got you. You know what I mean?
Yes. Okay. All right. And the questions are flowing. I'm like, I want to talk about. Okay, but no, we are going to dive on into the world of launching
Let's go.
now. Before we say anything, launching has absolutely changed. It's very different. And that's naturally going to happen because people adapt, people like something new, people like something fresh that they haven't felt like they've seen this before. That
Mhm.
goes with anything. How do you feel things have changed with launching, and what do you find to be working now versus 3, 4 years ago?
Yeah, that's a really good question. What I will say first, remind me of that question, because what I will say first is that I think that the industry went from seeing launching as this very exciting thing to now I feel like the industry has a little bit of an ick with launching. There's a lot of unlaunch programs, and there's a lot of like go straight to evergreen, style programs, and people who are just in their messaging actively hating on launching and saying how exhausting it is and how it doesn't work and that it's not the best way to run your business. I mean, there's just so much of that noise online that I feel like it's kind of gotten into people's heads to where you will literally see people say, I hate launching. I don't launch in my business. So buy my program, unlaunch, pre sale starts next week. And I'm like, so you're launching.
Yes.
Like,
And that's
you're
the thing is like,
literally
let's
launching.
look up like what is the hey Siri, what is the definition of launching? Siri's like, yes, tell me.
Like,
But
if
seriously,
you, I don't care if you want to call it a marketing push, if you want to call it a promotional period, a spotlight on an offer, a flash sale, literally all of that could be considered a launch. If you are actively selling one offer and there's a pre sale or a start date for it, you're launching. But people are so turned off by the word. Again, I can't tell you the reason why, but I think it just has to do with all the noise surrounding it. And people just, want to go fully passive. So they're like, boo, launching. But again, even the people who have a mostly evergreen business are usually doing two promotions or marketing pushes or launches per year, because all a launch is a time period when you are spotlighting one offer so that you can push the most amount of people into that one offer in one time period. So there's excitement around a launch because it's like you're only offering it during this time, or there's a special bonus, or there's a lot of hype and excitement around it, right? And so that's what leads to these big revenue spikes that everybody loves. So that was the first thing that I just wanted to say is I think that that's in a big way how it's changed in the industry, is that people don't even realize that they're still launching all the time even though they say they hate launching.
and it's funny because like I googled the definition, and first of all, it did talk about boats, and we're not talking about boats, but I mean, essentially, it's like getting something into motion. Whether it be a special offer, whether it be a brand new product, whether it be you're getting something into motion and you're
Yep.
putting it out into the market. Like
Yep.
it's a big announcement around an offer, a change, whether it be a sale, whether it be a new product. Like this is the thing. And this is why I'm excited to have this conversation because
Yeah.
if you're listening and you do feel a little bit icky about launching, you just haven't found the way to launch that feels good to you.
Yeah. Oh,
And
I'm getting into that, girl. Just wait. Just wait.
okay, all right. Rach has all the things to help you there. She's got a quiz. She's
I'm
got
like,
things.
I'm like, I gotta finish that question actually, because I didn't feel like I answered it.
Okay, all right.
Because I feel like back pre 2020, there was just a formula for how you launch a program. There's a very famous man. I think his name is Jeff Walker. I could be wrong, but anyway,
Sounds good to me.
there's yeah, I'm sure. But he created this formula for launching. It's kind of like what launching was built on. It was just like a step by step promotional period for your offer. But here's the thing, this is the biggest issue. And if you are out there and you are listening and you feel like launching is this exhausting process, let's talk about that, because I think what people need to realize is that everyone's business is different. Everyone's audience is different. Everyone's offer is different. Everyone's content preferences are different. Some people are better on video, some people are better with carousels. I mean, literally everyone is different, but you've been taught to launch the same way. So, you have this coach who is an 8-figure coach who has a super, super hot audience, who loves being on video, is full time in her business, has no kids, has unlimited time to launch new offers, to create 3 posts per day, is an energizer bunny. And then you are over here. I'm making this person up. Let's call it Coach B. You're over here and you have a small audience, not that warm. You work a 9 to 5. When you come home from your 9 to 5, you have kids that you want to spend time with. And then really you can only work on your business from like 7 to 9 p.m. And you don't really feel comfortable on video. So, if we're looking at that first 8-figure coach compared to Coach B, imagine Coach B trying to launch and sell the same way, or feeling like the only way to have a successful launch is if they are also an Energizer bunny posting 3 times a day, obsessively on video, right? So I think that is kind of what happened, is that everybody tried to emulate what they thought launching was, and it just did not work for their lifestyle, their time availability. Some people are neurodivergent. Like, there's so many different factors that come into play. And so you leave a launch being like, I have a 9 to 5 and I have kids. I only have an hour a day to post, but I followed the same launch strategy as I was taught, and I'm getting no sleep. And, I'm exhausted. My content sucks because I'm so tired. I hate launching. I hate my business, and I'm never launching again. So you dread the next launch. You decide to go evergreen. Like, you know what I mean? It's a process of just like realizing, oh, launching doesn't work. I hate launching. And that's where the rhetoric starts.
Yeah.
So I came up with something. I don't know if you're ready to get into this. You can stop me. But I came up with something called launching archetypes. And the reason that I came up with this is really, it goes back even further than that example that I just gave. It goes back to that experience we talked about with that coach that I worked with, where I tried to emulate her and take away all these parts of myself in order to be successful. And then, of course, once I actually highlighted what made me different is whenever my business, blew back up again in a more sustainable way. So I thought, it's that way for launching too. Like, if you have Coach A and Coach B, they can both have the exact same successful launch and just do it in different ways. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Different content styles, different visibility, different launch plan overall. So, anyway, I don't know if you want me to stop or if you want me to keep going, but that's what I will say, is that that's the biggest thing about launching is, if launching feels exhausting to you and you hate it, it's exactly like Alicia said, you literally have not found the launching style, not only that feels good for you, but that works for you.
Yes. And
Mic drop.
yes, and we're gonna stay tuned because we've got something for you, all right? Rachel's got the goods. So, some sort of quick fire questions, okay? All
Yeah.
right. Not too much thinking, just like whatever your heart feels, whatever your stomach spits out, we love, okay? I've got my list here. Okay. So, 3 biggest icks for launching.
3 biggest icks for launching. One, literally using somebody else's launch strategy,
Yes.
like doing things during your launch that you don't like. Like cold DMing, cold pitching when you're trying to sell your offer. Blech, can't do it. Um, and sending 27 last chance emails.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I can't do
Okay.
it.
3 biggest icks we love. Free masterclasses, yay or nay?
Yay. I love free
Yay.
master classes. Yes, yay.
Perfect. And your best tip for free masterclasses that lead into your offer?
Ooh, always fill the gap. Don't leave them feeling complete. After your masterclass is over, let them know, what else there is to learn and why they don't want to do it by themselves.
Love it. Okay. Open and close cart. Okay, so you open the doors, you've got a launch, you've got a promotion, and then it's like, all right, doors are about to close, offer's about to end. What have you found to be the best time frame for this?
Ooh, for open close cart in general, I think that it really depends on your offer. I know this is like bad rapid fire because I'm like, well, it depends.
Oh, I know. What comes out?
I would say if for a general just offer, probably 2 weeks. I'll say 2 weeks.
Okay, and let's keep going with the general offer sort of vibe.
Yeah.
How soon should you start warming up your audience before a launch?
Oh God, don't make me say it depends again. Okay. If you have a cold audience,
Yeah.
I'm going to say like 4 weeks beforehand. And in that time frame, you can drop like a digital product or a mini offer to help that cash flow come in, but you keep warming them up. But definitely take your time. If you have like a semi warm audience, I would say like 2 weeks before, and then like super hot audience a week before.
Perfect. Okay, we'll pause with the rapid fire because I know it's a bit
I love
stressful,
it.
especially with some of these questions. You're like, "There's so much to say,"
Like, wait,
but
it depends. No, I love it. I love it.
but I think it's super important we pause because a lot of people talk about you need to warm up your audience. Oh well, if your audience had been warmer, you would have got this different result. And I love because you actually, a big part of your work, of course, is like, all right, I'm not just going to tell you need to warm up your audience in my programs and in my world. I'm going to teach you how to warm
Yeah.
up your audience. So, can you give us, so say for example, we've got 3 weeks, right? 3 weeks where we're warming up our audience.
Mhm.
What are some of your best sort of things that you're like, okay, this is how you warm up your audience well?
Yeah. Well, I want to add to that and say I don't just teach people how to warm up their audience, but I teach them why.
Yeah,
Because
okay.
I think the psychology behind it really matters because this is what I will say. Before somebody can be warmed up and ready to buy your offer, they have to go through the big three: problem awareness, authority awareness, and solution awareness, which means before they are ready to give you their credit card, they have to feel super aware of their problem. And that sounds so obvious, but so many people think that their problem is something that it's not. And so it's up to you to get them to see, hey, I know you think that this is what you need, but this is what you actually need.
Yeah.
So, problem awareness in your content. Authority awareness is why you? Okay, I realize I have this problem now. Why do I need you to help me solve it? So that's your chance to build trust, to build authority, to talk about your experience, to share your wins, to share social proof, right? To say, I am the only one who can solve this problem for you, or I can do it the best, right? And then solution awareness is when you start to tease your offer, and not just the offer itself, but the benefits of like solving their problem, like why they need to solve this problem here, now, and with my offer. So that's the big three that I'm like, when you are planning your content before a launch, if you do not go through those three things, I don't care if it's 3 posts, I don't care if it's 6 posts, I don't care if it's 12 posts, and you don't even have to go in order. But if you don't go through those three things, people aren't going to buy. And it expands your overall sales process. And that's when you have to keep selling, selling, selling for weeks on end. And some people might buy at the end, but with this warm up process, you're going to have people begging to join as soon as the doors open. So that's what I got.
And I think that's a really good point there, is because you've spoken about how they're going to be super warm at the start and they're like, give me this.
Yeah.
What about in that middle phase
Yeah.
when, you've got your pre-sale offers, you've got your early bird offers, you've got your first 24 hour, however you want to do it.
Yeah.
But what about that phase in the middle where perhaps there's not as much of a rush because the early buyers and then those who buy last minute, it's sort of that middle
Yeah.
ground, the
I
middle.
call it the mid launch slump.
Thank you. That's a much better than my view.
Yeah.
Yes,
No,
I
no,
love
no.
that.
Yeah. The mid launch slump. Yeah. I mean, Logically, it's exactly like you said. There's urgency, there's hype, there's excitement at the beginning. And then at the end, too, there's that urgency if like doors are closing and you can't buy this for quite some time, or the bonuses end, or whatever it is. So, the middle time, I have a couple things to say about that. The first thing that I will say is, when we think of buyer psychology, like people buy it in different ways and at different points during the launch. So, like somebody that saw your 6 warm up posts and is like, that's for me. You are the coach for me. I'm ready to solve this now. Send me the link. We love those people, but that's a small percentage of the population. More often than not, people need, even if they're like, oh my God, I think I want this. What is there? There's fear, there's mindset shit going on. They're not as easily ready to jump, right? And so, 2 things. For those people, that's why you have to keep showing up in the middle, because they are on the fence, watching through the fence, and they're like just seeing. They're like, are you going to talk about it again? Is there anything that you post that's going to activate something within me? Or am I going to move today? Or, during that time period, it feels like the sales are done, but that is the most important time for you to show up, because those lurkers are just watching and waiting for you to say that thing that's going to spark them to make that move. So that's when, usually in the middle, I like to address fears and the mindset stuff and objections and stuff like that, because that's usually what's happening. But then the second thing is going back to the buyer psychology. Like, you just have to know that some people just need to hear something over and over and over again before they're like, okay, yeah, I think I've heard, all different aspects and I've decided that it is for me. So that's why a launch is, a couple weeks instead of 2 days, right?
Yes.
So,
And it really flowing onto a very good point, but in that slump, in that mid-period slump, such a common thing is that people do start to sort of feel, oh, this launch isn't going the way I
yeah.
wanted. Maybe in when you first announced it, it didn't get the result you wanted, and so you're still showing up, you're still doing the things, and you're not seeing the results you'd hoped. And such a easy thing to do in this moment is to go inside your mind and start saying, well, maybe the offer's not great, maybe this, maybe that.
Yeah.
And so for someone who is in that headspace and they're coming to you and they're like, look, Rach, I think I'm just gonna like call it quits, cut my losses, and just I'll launch again in a few months' time. What would you say to those?
I would say absolutely they are not allowed to quit. But here's the thing, is that is the point of the launch where people decide that they hate launching and that this didn't work, this was exhausting. And with everything that you just said, if you go evergreen, what's going to change? You're still selling your offer every day, like literally you are during a launch. So this is the perfect time period to tweak. So when people are like, I'm just going to quit and take a couple weeks off and then sell it again, I'm like, why would you do that? Because you do have momentum right now and there is people lurking behind the scenes, and you have to hold the faith. So this is your time period to troubleshoot. And I always say, go back to your content, see what has the most saves, what has the most shares. Let's start creating more of that type of content. Let's start speaking to that type of buyer. And also, let's look back at this launch and see, is there any area of the launch where like you feel like you've been doing something just because you have to? Is there something that you've been wanting to do but you haven't yet? Maybe it's an extra masterclass, or maybe it's a live series, or maybe it's a type of post that you've been afraid or that feels really edgy. I'm like, if you're thinking about quitting, then you have nothing to lose. So this time period, let's play.
Yeah.
Like, let's have fun and
Yes.
see what's possible before you decide to throw in the towel. Like, when you have nothing to lose, then you'll try anything, right? And so often once we troubleshoot and then start having fun again, that's when the sales flow in.
Yeah, and the other thing as well that I learned probably in maybe my third or fourth launch was that you have people, especially if you have a launch for this offer again or something similar again, like you showing up right now is only helping future you. Whether that is in a few days' time when you close the card and people are like, yeah, I've seen you continue to show up and I've decided, yes, I want this offer. Or it's a few months down the track and they're like, oh, I actually watched you launch this and now I'm ready to enter your world in whatever offer you are. People are there. And
Yep.
so the work that, the time, the energy that you're putting in, you may not see the results super quick, but
Yeah.
can you be patient enough? Can you, as you said, hold that faith that people are there, the right people are there, the right people are listening, whether they come around to you in a few days' time or a few months' time, you
Yep.
are showing up for a bigger purpose.
Yeah. I always say, or I always use the example of when I made $90,000 from a flopped launch because I didn't sign very many people into my offer. But then the very next offer, I had people that were like, that previous thing you launched wasn't right for me, but I've been watching you and I'm so ready to jump in this offer. Plus, people who did sign up for that offer were ready to upgrade to my mastermind. So, all around that flopped launch that I continued showing up for and that I saw all the way until the end led to $90,000 in additional sales. It's like, imagine if you gave up.
Yeah. That is the perfect example for that. And again, moving, and because I'm also very aware that we've got time pressed. So I want to dive into, because we spoke a little, this is the mindset. This is the mindset work that will only make you a better person, a better business owner. But the mindset shifts you had to make in order to make these big launches. You started seeing super consistent big launches.
Yeah.
What was some of that mindset work that you needed to do in order to be able to back that up and see this again and again? Because strategy is one part, but the mindset, is so important.
Yeah. I mean, I think this really goes with what we were just talking about, but I think I finally realized that every single launch has a purpose, even if it's a quote unquote flop or a failure, it never is because of that situation where, during your launch, you're showing up so powerfully, so consistently, you're super visible, creating content, doing lives with people, previous clients or fellow coaches. Like you're just showing up so powerfully talking about yourself, your business, your capabilities, your knowledge. And so it's like, even if people don't sign up for that offer, it's working for you in some other way, to where that next offer that you launch, you're going to make twice as much as you thought you would because of that previous launch. Or somebody's going to find you that offer wasn't right for them, but they're ready to pay you $20,000 for one on one coaching. And so I think I had to get to that place with my mindset of realizing you have to stop feeling like it's make or break it with every single launch. And that if you don't make money in this launch, it was a failure. I started seeing it as like what I'm doing today is going to pay off 3 months from now. And so that kind of took the pressure off. And I just started having fun and saying, like, how can I be super visible? How can I get my message out there? How can I reach as many people as possible? If they're right for my offer, great, it's a successful launch. But if they're not, they still found me and they're still probably going to hire me later. So how cool is that? So I think that was the shift, is just realizing that it's not all about this one launch. It's about what this launch creates for you in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that I really love as well is that, Rach, you've got your framework, which you say is the least stressful and easiest to follow. I don't know why I'm doing this because, I mean, I'm quoting
Easy.
you, but makes it sound like it's not. No, you have a framework that is the least stressful, easy to follow when it comes to launching. So I know that this is in your offers, right? This is
Yeah.
why people come to you. So can you give us maybe like a little juicy taste or insight into perhaps this sort of framework that you have that makes
Yeah.
it feel fun, that makes it feel easy?
Yeah. Well, one thing about me is that I have launched probably 50 plus different offers throughout my career. So I've launched paid master classes. I've launched paid workshops, digital courses, group programs, collab programs, masterminds, mini minds, one on one coaching. I mean, I've literally done it all. And I've tried different versions of launching master classes, wait lists, challenges, you know, everything that you could possibly think of. So I know that technically it all works, but you just have to find for each offer and, for each person and for each launch, you have to figure out what's going to work for them. So I think what makes my launch style so fun is that, yes, I teach the foundational strategy of like, this is what a launch is. Essentially, like, yes, you have to warm up your audience. You have to do a few things during your launch that, like, I will say, yes, you have to do it, you know?
Yes.
So, like, there are those foundational strategies, but I like to think of it as, choose your own adventure style of launching. So what I do in like my launch courses is that it's like module 1, I'll teach the foundational strategy, but then that's where it gets fun because then we go into, okay, we're going to take your offer and now we're going to decide, do you want to do a masterclass, challenge, or waitlist style launch? Let's go through each, see which one feels best for you, matches your archetype, your time availability, where your warmest audience is. Like if it's an email, then you need to do a wait list, right? Just like stuff like that. And then again, we go to content and it's like, okay, is your warmest audience here or there? That's where you're going to show up the most. Let's put together a visibility plan. So it's very like dependent on each person. And I think that's what makes it fun because if you read choose your own adventure books as a kid, like it was so fun, like go, reading it and being like, if you want, I read one that was like about a fairy and it was like, if you want to cast a spell on, this person, turn to page 27. If not, turn to page 15. And you're like, what do I want to do? Right? You're so excited. So it's kind of like that way with launching. If you want to do a masterclass launch, this is how you're going to plan your launch. If you want to, create content this way. So, yeah, I think that's what makes it so fun is just realizing that you have the freedom, but at the same time, there's strategy that backs it up. Because I never say you can just do whatever you want willy nilly. Doing it your own way doesn't mean you don't need a strategy, but I'm guiding you on how to do it with any way that's going to work for you, essentially.
Yes. And I'm really excited to take the quiz as well, which we will talk about in a moment. But I know that we push for time, but I cannot go without talking about when you say you've tried all sorts of launches, you mean it because you also launched an Airbnb. Like
Oh gosh, yeah.
you literally, and I know you're like, Alicia, wait, like this is not
No,
a,
I
this is
know. You're right. You're right.
but you launched an Airbnb, and that is
Yeah.
not something that I can say I have seen any other coach do,
Yeah.
and especially any other launching coach. This is why you're the launching freaking queen. But you literally, with your husband, bought a property and turned it into an Airbnb that is perfect for women like us. So, can we talk about that launch for that in just a few moments?
Well, that's another reason that I always say I know my launch strategy works
Hmm.
because not only does it work for all different launch styles and all different types of people and all of that and all different industries. Literally, I used my own launch strategy to launch a house. Like, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, that is a pretty big flex, I will say. The thing is, when we wanted to start our Airbnb, we knew that it would be successful because my husband and I are both in sales and marketing. Like that is just what we do. And so I knew I'm going to use my own strategy to essentially launch this house and get a ton of sales in our first month. And so, same as a regular launch strategy with launching a course or a group program, there was, that long warm up period of when we were designing the house and I was showing the updates on social media and I was
Yes,
starting to
taking us
post
along the
about it.
journey.
Exactly. Taking everyone on the journey behind the scenes, coming soon. What do you think about this color, that color? So it was very like warming them up, making them feel part of the process, exciting. And then right before we launched, I hooked up with a bachelorette company called Batch Babes, and I hired them to bring models over. We had like a faux bachelorette party. Do you call it your hen where you
Yes,
are? Yeah,
bachelorette
same
hens.
thing.
Yes, good work, good work.
And a photographer came and took photos of us. And so it was a blast. And we did a giveaway with them on launch day. And so we got a ton of followers all at once. We did a giveaway. Someone got a free stay. A ton of those girls booked, plus all the views to our Airbnb page, then boosted us in the algorithm. I'm posting every day on social media. And so we had a 10K month, our first month of launching. So I was like, okay, this works, whether you're launching a course or, I don't know, a house.
It works. It works. The proof is literally there. And
Yeah.
for you, because obviously the bookings and that is now open still,
Yeah.
what is your approach now that it's sort of launched and you're continuously looking to have bookings coming in?
Yeah. So we're actually working on something right now, which I can give your people the inside scoop is we're adding concierge services to where if you know you're coming for your bachelorette party and you want to have a balloon arch and decor waiting for you, you want to have a mimosa bar set up, you want us to stock the fridge with alcohol so that you don't have to run to the store or something like that, you can book that with us beforehand. So we're actually going to have a launch for that, which I'm very excited about. So that'll be kind of an extra income stream, but also this is something that bachelorette parties do
Wonderful.
anyway, but they
Yeah.
usually book outside of the Airbnb. So it'll be kind of all in one with our company. Um, but now it's kind of just being consistent on social media. The other day we had a TikTok get like 34,000 views. So that was fun. But yeah, it's just about being super consistent with socials, drawing more people to the page, and make sure that you're targeting the right people because since we are targeting people who are traveling to Austin for an Airbnb, we have to make sure that, we're really specific with what we're posting and everything. But yeah, so I would say it's like we are relaunching, we're launching something new, but in general, it's just about, being consistent with content.
Yes, and we'll definitely like I've watched the entire journey and I'm also my geography is like I've been to the US only a few times now, but every time I'm like, where is
Like,
this? And so when you're like Midwest, I was like, Midwestern, where is that? You're like, honestly, it's just bad. I did not do well at geography.
I mean,
But
I wouldn't know for Australia either, so don't worry.
okay, that makes me feel so much better. So much better.
I know
Um
where the desert is. It's really big.
yes,
So like you
right in
can't
the
really
middle.
miss it. Yeah.
So look, there are some really juicy questions that we didn't get a chance to chat about today, but I am going to hopefully tee up a time with Rach and we can do an Instagram live just because, if you're listening, you're like, I have a question about this. Cool. All right. Send it in. All right. Send a
Yeah.
DM. And then that way we can use that for our live and you'll get that answered. So if you perhaps have felt a certain way about launching, you're not alone. You have just been here in this session hanging out with Rach and myself, aka Rach, the launch queen. Rach, thank you so much for coming on. Before we dive into the easiest thing that someone can do right now, I
Yeah.
would love to finish on words that changed you. A quote, a phrase, something that you heard. Perhaps it was in that period where you really sort of shape shifted yourself in a sense to emulate what you thought you needed to be.
Yeah.
But maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was another time. Some words that have stuck with you and changed you to your core during a period you needed them.
I have two.
Love it.
One is you're welcome. And that sounds crazy, but I think of it when I am selling to gain confidence. Because instead of selling and thinking to myself, I hope that they like this, I hope that they need it, I hope I'm not being too annoying, I'm thinking, no, I literally packed up a life changing amount of information into this offer. So you are absolutely welcome that you're getting access to this. Of course,
I love that.
I don't say it like that, but I think it. I'm like, that's
Yes,
where the confidence comes from when I'm selling. I'm like, no, you're welcome. So that's
I
one
freaking love
thing.
that.
I would say the second thing is the more I speak my truth, the more of an authority I become. Because people think that you can't be vulnerable if you want to be seen as a leader. And I think that true leaders tell the truth and they're vulnerable and they talk about the hard times and they share the behind the scenes. Like that's what makes you a leader, is that you're not afraid to do that in between all the wins.
That one hit deep. That one hit deep. The first one, you're welcome. I was like, I'm gonna use this. I freaking
That's
love it.
right.
The second one, I was like, ooh, oh, that was really, really good. Rach, for someone listening, there are so many ways that they can enter your world. We'll put your Instagram below. As I said, we'll hopefully take up a time for an Instagram live. We'll save that to the feed and then I'll
Love
link it below.
it.
But what is the first thing? We spoke about archetypes. How
Yes.
can we figure out our archetype? How can we take that next step into launching that feels fun?
That's a perfect way to come into my world, is to come take the launching archetype quiz. So I created this quiz that asks you a series of questions about like your strengths, your time availability, your preferences, all of that, in order to kind of fit you into the archetype of what type of launch would work best for you. So after you learn about your archetype, I also send you a free guide, which is essentially a launch plan that's going to work for you.
Ah, okay. I want to figure out what archetype I am. So I'm
I
going to go
already
take it.
know. I already know. You're the content and educator. Like you love creating content and being on video. Like that's easy peasy.
Oh, well, okay. We've taken the quiz, but no, definitely. We'll put the link below. Take the quiz. All right. Share your story, like where you're listening. And if you've taken the quiz, like I would love to know. I want to know what type of archetype you are. Okay. Rach, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. I appreciate you. Everything you have shared has just hit me in such a way. And if it's hitting me, I know that anyone listening, no matter where you are on your business journey, launching journey, this is going to be absolutely everything for you. So, Rach, thank you so, so much.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This was great, and I think it's a very important conversation to have. I love that we went deep. So, thank you so much.
Yeah.